Everything goes to Robert. Those 4 words ended 30 years of my life. I sat in that cold leather chair, hands shaking, watching my brother refuse to look at me. But his wife, Linda, she was smiling. 30 years. I gave my mother 30 years. And now, sitting in this fancy attorney's office in Columbus, I was learning that I didn't even exist in her final wishes. My name is Margaret. Everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 58 years old, and for 3 decades, I was my mother's everything. It started when Daddy died in 1994. Heart attack. He was only 62. Mom was devastated. She couldn't function, couldn't cook, couldn't pay bills. She would just sit by the window and cry. I was 28 then. I had just gotten promoted at my accounting firm. I had a boyfriend named David who wanted to marry me. I had dreams, you know, a house with a garden, children, a life of my own. But Mom needed me. "Just stay for a few months, sweetheart," she said. "I can't do this alone." A few months turned into a year. 1 year turned into 5. David couldn't wait anymore. He left. I understood. I didn't blame him. My brother Robert was 3 years younger than me. He lived in Cleveland, about 2 hours away, close enough to visit, but he never did. Maybe twice a year. Christmas sometimes, Mother's Day if we were lucky. Robert was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who got straight A's and a business degree, the one Mom bragged about at church. Me? I was just dependable Maggie, the one who stayed. I gave up my career, I gave up marriage, I gave up having children. I watched my friends move on with their lives while I helped Mom take her pills and drove her to doctor appointments. And I never complained. Not once, because I loved her. For 25 years, things were hard but manageable. Mom and I developed a routine. I took care of the house on Maple Street. I managed her finances. When she turned 75 and her arthritis got bad, I bathed her. When she turned 80 and started forgetting things, I reminded her. I remember one visit, years ago, before everything changed. Robert came alone and sat with Mom for hours looking at old photo albums. When he left, his eyes were red. "I should come more often," he said quietly. He meant it then. I really believe he did. But then he married Linda in 2022, and something changed. It was like she found the worst parts of him and watered them like weeds. The dementia started slowly, little things at first, forgetting where she put her keys, asking me the same question 3 times in 1 hour. Then it got worse. She forgot what year it was. She forgot that Daddy was gone. Some days she forgot who I was. "Who are you?" she would ask, staring at me with confused eyes. "Where's my daughter?" "I'm right here, Mom. I'm Maggie." And then Robert started showing up every weekend, suddenly, after 25 years of barely calling. Linda was polite at first, too polite. She brought flowers for Mom. She brought casseroles she claimed to have made. She laughed at all of Mom's confused stories. "Your mother is such a treasure," Linda said to me once, her smile too wide. "Robert and I just love spending time with her." Something felt wrong, but I pushed the feeling down. Then the whispers started. Robert and Linda would take Mom into her bedroom and close the door. They would talk for hours. When I knocked to bring Mom her medication, the room would go silent. "What were you talking about?" I asked Robert one day. He shrugged. "Just family stuff, Maggie. Nothing you need to worry about." Nothing I need to worry about? I was the one who had given up everything for this family. One Sunday, I overheard Linda talking to Mom. "Margaret doesn't really love you. She's just waiting for your money. Robert is your real family. Robert actually cares." I froze in the hallway, my heart pounding. I wanted to storm in there. I wanted to scream, but Mom was fragile. A confrontation could have broken her. So I said nothing. I just kept taking care of her, like I always did. I should have said something, because what Linda did next made the whispers look like nothing. Mom passed away on March 15th, 2024. She was 87 years old. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. I had been holding that hand for 30 years, through the lonely nights, through the doctor's visits, through the moments when she didn't even know my name. Robert wasn't there. He was stuck in traffic. The funeral was small. Mom had outlived most of her friends. I gave the eulogy. I talked about her kindness, her strength, her love of gardening and old movies. Robert sat in the front row with Linda. They both wore black. They both looked appropriately sad, but I noticed Linda checking her phone during the service. 2 weeks later, we met at the attorney's office. Mr. Patterson was a kind-looking man in his 60s. He had handled my parents' affairs for decades. He opens the folder and started reading. At first, I didn't understand. The words didn't make sense. The entirety of Eleanor Marie Thompson's estate, including the property at 445 Maple Street, all savings accounts totaling $387,000, and all personal possessions shall pass to her son, Robert James Thompson. I waited for my name. I waited for my portion, even a small acknowledgement. It never came. "Wait," I said, my voice trembling. "There must be a mistake." Mr. Patterson looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Miss Thompson. This will was signed and notarized 4 weeks ago. Everything is in order." 4 weeks ago? Mom couldn't remember my name 4 weeks ago. She couldn't remember what day it was. How could she sign a legal document? I turned to Robert. "How could you do this?" He wouldn't meet my eyes, but Linda leaned forward, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Let's be honest, Margaret. You weren't a daughter. You were the hired help who never left. Eleanor finally saw that." The words hit me like ice water. Robert said nothing. He just stared at the table. I walked out of that office with nothing. No home, no savings, no acknowledgement of 30 years of sacrifice. I was 58 years old, unemployed, and about to be homeless. I had 2 weeks to move out of the house on Maple Street. Robert made that very clear. "Get your stuff and go," he said on the phone. "Linda and I are selling the place." I started packing my things. 30 years of life, stuffed into cardboard boxes. I cried through most of it. On my last day, I went into Mom's closet for an old sweater I'd given her years ago. The closet still smelled like her, lavender and mothballs. I was crying so hard I could barely see. That's when my hand hit something in the back corner, a shoebox I'd never noticed before, hidden behind her winter coats. Inside were old photographs, birthday cards, and an envelope with my name on it, in Mom's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it. "My dearest Maggie," the letter began. It was dated January 2023, over a year before she died, long before the dementia got bad. "You know I don't say it enough, but you are my heart. You gave up your life for me, and I can never repay you. This house is yours. You earned it. The will I signed with Mr. Patterson leaves everything to you, with a small portion for Robert. Please don't let anyone tell you different. You are my good girl, always. Love, Mom." There was more in the envelope, a copy of an original will, dated January 2023, witnessed, notarized, everything to me. Mom had made her real wishes clear. The new will was a fraud. The next morning, I called a lawyer named Sarah Mitchell. I showed her everything. "This is elder abuse," Sarah said, her voice serious. "Your mother clearly lacked mental capacity when this new will was signed. We can contest this." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. The next 14 months were the hardest of my life. But Sarah kept fighting. She subpoenaed Mom's medical records. She interviewed the notary who had witnessed the new will. She talked to Mom's doctors and nurses. The evidence was overwhelming. Mom's doctor testified that by February 2024, Eleanor scored an 8 out of 30 on her cognitive assessment. She couldn't name the current president. She thought Reagan was still in office. She asked the nurse if her husband was parking the car, 10 years after Daddy died. There was no way she understood what she was signing. The notary admitted that Robert had paid him $2,000 to notarize the document quickly without following proper protocols. He lost his license. But the real bombshell came from Linda. Linda didn't confess out of guilt. She confessed because Sarah's investigator found text messages between her and Robert, messages where they planned everything, every detail, every lie. When Sarah showed those texts to Linda's own attorney, he convinced her to cooperate for a reduced sentence. Coldly, Linda turned on Robert to save herself. It was his idea, she testified, pointing at Robert. He said Maggie didn't deserve anything. He called her a maid. He said the money should go to real family. Robert's face went white. The judge didn't just invalidate the fraudulent will. He did something more. The court finds that Robert James Thompson engaged in deliberate elder abuse and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, the judge declared. The original will from January 2023 is hereby reinstated. Additionally, Mr. Thompson is ordered to pay all legal fees and court costs. But that wasn't the end. The district attorney got involved. Robert was charged with elder abuse, fraud, and forgery. He faced up to 5 years in prison. Flatly, Linda filed for divorce 3 days later. Robert tried to call me. He left voicemails begging for forgiveness. He said Linda had manipulated him. He said he was sorry. I deleted every single one. Some things can't be forgiven. I still live in the house on Maple Street. Mom's house. My house now. I planted roses in the backyard, the red ones Mom always loved. I sit on the porch in the evenings and watch the sunset, just like we used to do together. Robert took a plea deal, 2 years probation and community service. He lost his job, he lost his wife, he lost the respect of everyone who knew him. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel sorry for him. He's still my brother. I remember that man who sat with Mom looking at photo albums, his eyes red, promising to visit more. But then I remember Linda's words in that attorney's office, the hired help who never left. I remember 30 years of sacrifice being thrown away for money. Last Tuesday, I found another letter in Mom's things, just 2 lines in her shaky handwriting. Maggie stayed. That's all that matters. And you know what? She was right.